Well, welcome back, folks. There is big news on health care and abortion today, and it's coming from Congressman Bart Stupak. He's a pro-life Democrat from Michigan, and he gave a radio interview this morning in which he raised new charges that the health care overhaul will end up providing taxpayer dollars for abortion.
He came back a little while later and said, but we want to pay for abortions. I said, Mr. Chairman, we disagree. We don't do it now. We're not going to start. But we think we should. I said, well, I'm sorry, but the House has spoken. We had that debate. We won, 240 to 190. You forced a vote. We won fair and square. And we're not going to, this is what it is. If you want to move health care, keep current law.
Democratic Congressman from New York, Anthony Weiner, joins me again live. All right, Congressman Weiner, that is Bart Stupak, a Democrat, accusing Henry Waxman, who chairs one of the three committees who came up with the health care bills in the House, of saying explicitly, we want taxpayer dollars to fund abortions. We think that we should make that the law.
Well, it almost doesn't matter. Look, we have the Hyde Amendment that's been in place for a generation. I'm not crazy about it, but it says that there should be no federal funding for abortions. That's the law as we sit here. That'll be the law after health care passes. You know, we're all having to make some compromises here. I started out, and I've spoken to you about this, I believe we should have an expansion of Medicare to cover all Americans. I've compromised to a public option and then a weaker public option. There are going to be compromises people are going to have to make. But Bart Stupak isn't actually having to make one. If you don't want your tax dollars going to pay for abortions, you are not going to have them after this bill. You're not going to have them today. And you're not going to have them any time for the last 25 years.
Let me jump in, because that's not what he says. He says that under the Senate plan, which you guys are now looking to pass, and I've looked at this myself, that anybody who buys insurance through the exchange they'd have to buy $1 of their premiums would go towards funding abortions. And it gets put in a special pot, but that $1 does indeed go towards funding abortions. Now, you can opt out of the plans that fund abortions if you want. There has to be at least one that doesn't fund abortions. But his point is, what average American is going to go through each of the plans and say, funds abortions, doesn't fund abortions? They're just going to sign up for a plan, and then their taxpayer dollars are going to go to fund abortions. How do you respond?
All throughout our federal health care infrastructure, and it's $2.7 trillion each year we pay for health care, are times when consumers are told, we can't pay for this with taxpayer dollars, you have to pay for it on your own. That happens all the time. It happens with abortion, unfortunately. I don't think it should. I don't think poor women should be denied that. But it does. It's going to happen after this law, too.
No, on the Senate bill, respond to my point, because the Senate bill, I looked at it myself. The Senate bill says that $1 per premium, in the premiums, will go, per person into a fund, and that fund will be used to pay for abortions.
That is not right.
For reproductive rights, which would include abortions.
No. In fact, that's not right. Here's the way the bill is structured right now. We are going to create an exchange so every consumer can shop for the different services that they want and compare prices. That's a good thing. What Congressman Stupak is saying is simply because an insurance policy is in that exchange, somehow it's getting federal dollars. That's not the case. The fact is, each individual person will be told that if they want to get an abortion, they're not going to be able to use any subsidy, any plan that's provided by the federal government to do that. That's already going to be the law. Congressman Stupak wants to go far beyond that and say that anyone that offers insurance that is going to be in this exchange to even offer the service, it can't even be in there, even though it gets zero federal dollars. That's going much too far, because then what you're doing is taking away the choice from other people.
He says he likes the Hyde Amendment, which right now provides that no taxpayer dollars can be used for abortion except in certain limited cases like rape, incest, and that kind of thing. But he says, let's just keep the Hyde Amendment law. And then Henry Waxman says to him, no. And then you heard what he said, Congressman Weiner. Henry Waxman, according to Bart Stupak, said, but we want to pay for abortions. We think we should. I mean, how can you say that doesn't matter?
Hey, hold on a second. You're asking Anthony Weiner to comment on Megyn's overhearing of what Bart Stupak said. Waxman said, why don't I do this? Why don't I do this? No, it's what Stupak says. Why do we talk about what's in the law? If Bart Stupak tomorrow says, I want to restate the Hyde Amendment, done. No one's objecting to that. That's what you just said.
Apparently someone is.
Incorrect. No, incorrect. He's trying to go far beyond that.
Does it not trouble you at all that you've got Congressman Waxman, according to Stupak, telling him, we want to pay for abortions with taxpayer money.
He
says we think we should.
What's important is not what you're telling me Stupak and Waxman talked about. What's important is what me and you were talking about, which is what is in this bill.
Because here's why it's relevant.
Let me finish
and then I'll give you the floor, I promise. Here's why it's relevant, is because people are worried that once this thing gets passed, it's a slippery slope, and that that the ban on federal funding for abortion in the Senate bill is tied to the Hyde Amendment. And if the Hyde Amendment, which bans taxpayer dollars going to abortion, is repealed, that it will then be open season for taxpayer-funded abortion under the law. That's why the attitude of those who are in control, like Waxman, matters. Now the floor is yours.
The repeal of the Hyde Amendment is contemplated nowhere. You would be exactly right. If someone thought about repealing the Hyde Amendment, we'd have a legitimate policy discussion. I'd be on one side, Stupak would be on another. That's not being contemplated. You're exactly right. So long as the Hyde Amendment continues to be the law of the land, and the Hyde Amendment says, as clear as paper, as ink on paper, says that no federal tax dollars can go towards the provision of abortions, period, end of conversation. Congressman Stupak wants to go beyond that. That's the only controversy.
But I don't understand why Waxman would be trying to persuade Stupak to come on board and vote for this bill by saying, because Stupak's in there saying, I don't like it because I think money goes towards abortion. I know you disagree, but that's what he's saying. And Waxman responds to him, Congressman Weiner, by saying, but we think it should. We want, this is a quote, but we want to pay for abortions.
But Megyn, I got to tell you, you've asked me 5 ways to comment on Waxman's conversation with Stupak. Isn't it much easier that we talk about what's in the bill and what's not?
So it's not going to happen. Really, you say Waxman's off base, whatever he wants, people don't need to worry about that.
No, you can have a conversation about a Waxman-Stupak conversation I didn't hear. But what I can help you with is what Bart Stupak said about it.
No,
I did not hear what the conversation was. I can tell you what's in and what's not in the bill. Maybe that would be helpful. What is in the bill is the preservation of the Hyde Amendment. What is not in the bill is the repeal of the Hyde Amendment. That's whatever conversations went on about that subject, those are the facts. And so, while I'm not crazy about the Hyde Amendment, to say that it's being repealed is something I haven't even heard Bart Stupak say.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's being repealed either, and that's not what he said.
It's not.
He and others are worried about, in the future if it gets repealed and what happens. In any event.
Yeah, hey, look, and I think in the future we may want to have a debate whether it should be. But we certainly shouldn't do it now because there's no need for it now.
Well, I understand. And he's got other concerns, which I tried to voice. Listen, just for the record, we asked both Stupak and Waxman to come on. Neither one agreed. So, I appreciate you coming on and giving us, your insights on it, Congressman Weiner. You're always a stand-up guy here. All the best.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, what do you think, folks? I mean, it's kind of hard to get your arms around, right? It's kind of a difficult issue, but it's one that